Good evening and welcome to the Cheese Room. My name is John. I'm your host for this evening. Tonight, we will be discussing the longest saga since, the appointment of our head coach last summer. Let's hope it works out a little bit better for Jed Spence than it did for Nuno. Yes, of course, we finally signed Mr. Spence. And here he is in all his glory. Well, in his Borough kit. There is a lovely Spurs shirt. And of course, the very clever graphic that I think we put up before Spurs even put it up because it was all over the internet.
So props to the cheese room graphics department on that one. We were way ahead of the Tottenham Hotspur media department.
Was that you? Was it, mate? Our chief graphic designer, JP.
Wasn't me, that's for sure.
So obviously we'll be discussing Mr. Spence's signing. We'll be discussing Antonio's reaction when he was asked a question about the signing. We'll also look at some of the rumours of ins and outs. We'll tell you what we think the squad still needs before the end of the window. And also, I think we'll have a little chat about Antonio Conte, how long we think he'll be here for. If you remember, not so long ago, people thought he wouldn't last the transfer window. So, joining me tonight, what can I say about this panel of gentlemen with me tonight? Intelligence, articulate analysis, fantastic understanding of the game, and an in-depth knowledge of players we've been linked to. You know where I'm going. Obviously, they lack all those things. So, firstly, I apologise, but we will push through. Joining me all the way from Melbourne is our chief graphic designer, the man in charge of the comments tonight. It is JP. How are you, mate?
Doing well. It feels earlier than normal, but I'm just as joyed as ever to be up here with you lovely gentlemen and chat all things Tottenham.
Indeed. I can just tell you that JP spent about 15 minutes just for the show editing the slides, only for me to twice say that's wrong and that's wrong. But he did a good job given that it's 10 past 6 in the morning. So well done, mate.
When you inevitably find spelling mistakes, don't take it easy on me in the comments.
Yeah. Also joining us from Melbourne is JP's mate, who will probably take the mickey out of him a lot. It's Cameron. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. In cold Melbourne, indeed, midwinter. Watching the tropical island of UK go through some hot weather, but in envy. So, going well and good to be on here at 6 a.m. in the morning.
I might have to open I'll just shut the door. I might have to open it again. I'm actually getting quite hot, and we've had rain today and all sorts. Yeah, well, yeah. And again, joining us all the way from Brooklyn, our bad man, Jack. Flat Cap Euro Talk. How are you, mate?
Good to be back. It's feeling like kind of a regular occurrence. And, I dodged a very swanky and very, tempting mandate that, I was going to have today to come onto the cheese room so you can see the dedication is, strong.
Absolutely. And I think what are you drinking, Jack, this evening?
I guess people do want to find out. I am drinking, I think it's called Single Cut Brewery. I'm not sure where it's from. I think it's from around here. And it's a double IPA, everybody. Hold it up.
So
look at that.
Like holding like a grand prize dog or something like that.
I think we should discuss. In the green room beforehand, we were having a little discussion about the price of beer, and Cameron was shocked when I told him the prices over here. Now, how much would a pint of that in a pub or a bar cost, Jack?
Yeah, even when I'm
I'd probably see $9 or $10. Probably be very common actually for one of these bad boys. $9 or $10, very common.
I think local to me, you probably £5 or £6 wouldn't be, beyond the pale. I would say. What about you boys in Melbourne?
James is muted. $12 to $15 if you're in the middle of town.
I went out to Brighton yesterday for some leaving drinks, and Brighton's, I guess, a little bit of a slightly upper market kind of suburb, and I paid $18 for a pint of lager.
What's the exchange? It's like 2 to 1, isn't it, at the moment? The exchange rate?
About that, yeah, 75.
When I was living in the UK, it was about £3 to £4 to get a beer. I thought, hopefully going over early next year, I hope it's about £3 or £4 around the place to buy a pint because it's actually here.
Depends where you go, Cameron, I think. Did you have hair back then? Was it that long ago?
Did what?
Did you have hair back then?
Yeah, sure I did. It's all gone now.
Let us know in the comments, how much is your average pint in your local tavern, pub, bar, whatever it is? And obviously where you are in the world. That would be quite helpful. Before we crack on, I'm just going to tell you about our new sponsor. I know it's been mentioned a couple of times in the last few shows, Kit Bag. I'm going to, where we go. So if you go to the link, which I'm going to put in the comments in a minute, I'll just do it now. That will go, anything you buy, having clicked that link, we will get a small little percentage. So it helps the cheese room if you go there. The link I've just put in the comments will take you to the Spurs page. So you can have a look. There is also a special promotion code that's running until midnight tonight UK time. So you've got just under 3 hours to use this. Gets you up to 65% off by using the word crossbar. So please do have a look at that website. And say anything you click on that, if you click on that link to get there and you buy something, we get a little bit, and it helps us to run this software and also buy the mics the guys are using and all that sort of thing. So there you go. Some excellent stuff on there, including the new away shirt, which I knew is a bit contentious, but I think as it will be a grower. I think as time goes on, people will really
multi-purpose. It's multi-purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like a training top, but I think it's a training top. It's all right. Right.
Get more use out of it.
So
yeah, I've been to a few Wetherspoons when I was there, Phil. Yeah, I've been there. £3.30. Gee.
I'm sure Phil loves the Wetherspoons. So please get your comments in as we're going, and please click that like button. It really helps us get the show out there. We've got 56 viewers at the moment, and there's 17 likes. As much as anything, we need to get close to the 7.7k viewers we had on Monday. Otherwise, we won't hear the end of it from Caller because he'll be even smugger than usual. So please help us get up to those numbers. The more likes we get, the more the show gets pushed out there and the more people come on board. Happy days. Right. So Mr. Jed Spence is in the door finally. I think it was Tuesday it was announced. £12.5 million fee, increasing to a potential 20 million with add-ons. JP, are we happy?
I was thrilled. I was particularly excited to hear that Daniel Levy managed to get an extra £2.5 million off Middlesbrough, and that just made the deal all the more sweeter. Aren't we so happy we waited the extra 14 years for £2.5 million?
Cameron, are we happier to have him or that just the whole saga is over?
The whole saga is over. I am not over them. I think it's a nice signing. It's a futures signing for a coach or manager that wants to have perform in the now. I think if we're realistic and Conte got his way, I don't think Spence would have been the top of his list. But I do think he'll reap dividends. I just don't know if that'll be in the Conte era or not. I've just got this feeling we're not going for any more right wing backs because I think Lucas could be practicing down that flank there. So I think I'm not over the moon. I'm happy for it to be an investment, but I don't think it's for the now, if that makes sense.
Okay. Jack, what are your thoughts on DJ Ed Spence?
Yeah, I kind of echo, the previous statements where, the saga is over, the suspense is over, but I feel like it would be a bit more exciting if it hadn't dragged on so long. It would have been kind of new, a bit fresh, kind of a gamble on, something from the championship. I know a lot of people who are Spurs fans who probably watch a bit of championship, football from time to time, wish maybe we took kind of more, kind of intelligent shots, at some, kind of talent down there, because you can really, score on the homegrown probably players if you do your research on some of those championship players. So all I can say is hopefully Jed Spence is somebody that we did our homework on, somebody that we could see as being maybe the replacement for the never-ending saga of, will we ever replace Kyle Walker? So I don't know. I'm going to be optimistic, but yeah, I wish that it didn't drag on so long.
Yeah, indeed. Just in answer to Kerry saying that he seems to be getting along well with Cess, they were at Fulham as kids from under 12s upwards, I believe. Yeah. So they obviously know each other very well, and there's been a lot of interaction on social media between the two of them. So Conte's comments. Conte was asked a question in the press conference, and he's about Spence, and he said, "Spence is an investment by the club." I said, "Okay, this player is young, but he showed he can be good, important player for us. The club decided to buy him." JP, concerning comment or you okay?
I was initially concerned by it, but I think if you remember back to when we signed Kulusevski and Bentancur, he made similar types of comments. He said these are the types of profile ages that this club likes to sign. And it's almost like his thing of like he likes to distance himself from a signing and like put the club as like, yep, the club are doing this. My job is to coach the players so that he's got this like fallback plan when it all goes wrong that he can go, well, I told you to go out and spend 130 million on Hakimi. So there we go. But no, I think he's greenlit it. I'm not concerned because he's shown over the period that he's not unwilling to use younger players. I mean, he's rates Sessegnon very highly, who's a player that he inherited and is the same age as Spence. So I don't think it's a concern in terms of him not using him. He'll give him a fair crack of the whip. But yeah, I just wish sometimes we had a manager who was a little less temperamental. And I watch this on the football field and I go, nah, I love this guy. If he wants to make bizarre, rotten comments about players 14 seconds after they sign for the club, fine. As long as, it doesn't all come crashing down this season.
Jack, I can see you're brewing a thought there. What do you think?
I just feel like we're like kind of falling into the trap of what we did last time with Burnley, where we're kind of just really, I feel like JP is probably right. Like he is sort of hinting that, he doesn't really know very much about Spence. I just feel like he doesn't need to know a lot about Spence. Like it's not Antonio Conte's job to, know every right wing back in the world. In fact, I feel like he probably just goes to Paratici and kind of says, I have these guys in mind, but what I'm really looking for is a player that can give me this. And maybe Daniel Levy was like, I have this guy that, I know, through a friend that happens to be Jed Spence. What if we brought him in? And I think that's just how it went down. And he said that, he okayed the transfer, even in the quotes that, we're kind of referring to. He did say, he still gave sort of, the thumbs up of, even if it was a very slight thumbs up or, very half-hearted thumbs up, he still gave the thumbs up. So I kind of feel like sometimes we might be exaggerating, like, his comments here. I feel like he doesn't need to be over the moon. I feel like if he was over the moon, that would be pretty disingenuous, if not a bit fake. And then at the same time, I think we're also realizing that he speaks, with his chest and he speaks with his heart. And he's just saying, listen, I don't know much about this kid, but I feel like, there's probably a reason that we bought him. I feel like that's all he really said.
I get the sense, sorry to jump in again, but I get sense, looking at the last two summer windows we've had, that when Paratici came in, he was given a task of like squad rejuvenation. Because if you think about who he signed last summer, talking about Bryan Gil, young, promising, up and coming, Sarr, looks good on the few kind of minutes we've seen of him, but highly rated. Coming again, Jed Spence. So I feel like and given how kind of transparent the club appear to have been with Conte around this is what we're going to go and do, I think he's aware that, okay, the conversations around transfers this summer would be, look, we've got this job to try and rejuvenate the age of the squad and get some young British players into the club because we know that's important for us moving forward. But we're also going to give you what you want. We're also going to go out and sign the Perisic's. We're going to go out and spend 60 million or up to 60 million on Richarlison. So I don't think Conte is disappointed in this signing. I think he knew that he was going to get some of those, but he was also going to get what he wants. And so he looks at this and goes, yeah, this is one of those club signings. I'll have a look at him by all means. And, we needed another right wing back, but it just appears like he wasn't desperate like we are as fans for another right wing back. I think he thinks that Matt Doherty can do the job, and he's looked at Spence and gone, yeah, he looks all right. He looks like he's got the attributes for me. If you want to sign him, I'll have a look at him, but I've got Doherty at the moment, so I'm not super concerned. And he's looking at Lucas as well and going, between Lucas and Doherty and maybe Spence, I've got enough to cover that right wing back.
Cam, how many wing backs as a whole do you think we need? If we bear in mind, we know Doherty can play left wing back as cover.
I would go 3, purely based upon
for the whole squad.
No, sorry, you thought you said right wing back or wing back?
No. How many wing backs left and right wing backs? How many do you think we need total?
2 or 3 in each position. Some of them don't have the best of injury records, so Sessegnon's not exactly a consistent player in terms of physical play on the pitch. You want 2 or 3 in each side, just to back up there. Given Doherty's coming back from a knee injury, Spence, I don't want to put in straight into the team. I think he needs to be nurtured in there. Yeah, I can see Lucas playing down that right wing backside. So, yeah, 2 or 3 in each side. Because I promise you, Sess is probably going to cop another hammy of about the 50 hamstrings he's done already. So, yeah, I'll have a backup in both each side if you could have about 2 or 3.
I think you could probably run like 5 total as kind of a minimum because Doherty and Perisic can switch flanks. So I think that's kind of why we're not super concerned about the quality on the right because I think the left, if we don't move Sess on, there's enough on the left to not have to worry about the right so much and then vice versa.
I was going to ask that about Perisic. Has he played right of the flanks before instead of left? Because he's coming in as left, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very two-footed, but I think left will be where he starts off.
He's
His
on the
stats are
left.
better, certainly on the left than on the right.
Yeah.
Jack, what was I going to ask? God, now. I did have a really good question in my head. Oh, who do you think will start at right wing back on the game against Southampton, Jack?
Emerson.
Yeah.
I have this funny feeling with Emerson, and where I feel like he's never going to actually cut it as the right wing back that Conte truly needs, and maybe because he's just at the end of the day just going to be a B-Tech Mourinho kind of right back. I think that's kind of what he is at his best, and that's why I feel like it made complete sense that Atletico were in for him. You could see him thriving, in a team kind of like that, but. There's something about how, like, the behind the scenes, kind of footage from Tottenham Hotspur looking like how he's like, seen, kind of as Agent Emerson, with Richarlison, at the club, and things like that. I even made the comment that when they were in Korea, it felt like even though that was sort of Sonny's kind of like big moment, felt like Emerson was in 80% of, kind of the camera time for, all of those, Tottenham shots. So I have this weird feeling that they have no plans on selling him at all, in fact, or like getting rid of him. And it's more just like maybe said before that we might actually just do this weird rotation of 3 right wing backs, and whichever one Conte feels like is the one that's suited for that week is the one that he'll go for. And Emerson sort of gave that solidity at the end of the season, and he's probably been working heavily on his kind of, attacking side to his game, his forward thinking side to his game this summer. Doherty is coming back from an injury as well. If maybe he weren't coming back from an injury, perhaps, he would start this game, but I feel like Emerson is going to be starting just because he's not
playing
coming
a
back from an
3-4-3
injury.
or are we playing 3-5-2?
I think we're going to do 3-4-3 the first game of the season, and I imagine Emerson's going to start.
That's what I was thinking you're going with.
It's not a sexy prediction, but it's I think the one that will happen.
JP, Lucas, right wing back, is that realistic? And why has Conte only just started now when HG was calling it for it in December?
I could hear the screams of joy from HG all the way from Australia when those comments were made by Conte. Had to block your ears and earthquakes started to rock. This is part of what makes me think that Conte's not stressed about the right-hand side. I think he looks at it and he goes, I've got lots of options. If I need to be like way more aggressive, I can play Lucas there. If I need to be more defensive, I've got Emerson, and Doherty's going to give me my like energy and effort, and he can play that role, and he'll do the job each time. So I think it's one of those that like low down his priority list was like, if I could upgrade that, sure, but let's do other areas of the squad. I think we all spoke about this last year. I think every Spurs fan has said they want to see Lucas at right wing back. We know that his end product is kind of the biggest flaw in his game. And I think right wing back helps him. He can't cross, but as it looks like with the profile of wing back we're looking for, Perisic aside, we don't seem to be looking for that in our wing backs. We're just looking for people who can get into right areas inside the box, and who can beat a man. And Lucas can do both of those things. If he could put some finishing touches into his game, it'd be great. But, I think particularly with the links we've got to other players at the moment in like that attacking midfield position, they all seem to be players who can play out wide or through the center. So I think that is kind of the way we're going. We want to bring in a more versatile option as a replacement for, a backup for Kulusevski. and Lucas will be that kind of third choice right wing position / right wing back.
That's spot on. I think that's spot on.
But I think if we're looking at that, we absolutely have to be moving on one of the right wing backs at the moment, though. Having 4 in the squad.
If we are considering Lucas as a right,
if we're
wing
considering
back,
Lucas as primarily a right wing back, let's say we bring in a Zaniolo, like one of Doherty or Emerson has to go.
In that case, though, if you are considering Lucas, I know people would say, maybe you then get rid of Emerson. I would say the opposite. I would actually say you get rid of Doherty in that case, because Doherty, we all know, is not strong defensively. And if you are considering Lucas as a right wing back, I'm not really sure what Doherty does. And I feel like Doherty can play left wing back in the sense that he can put his name on the team sheet as a left wing back, but I don't really know if he's actually a real left wing back of any sort. So I would rather see Doherty go if we are going to experiment with Lucas.
I think if you think about, like, if we sell Emerson in those games against like City and Liverpool where we're lying deep and we need Emerson. Those wing backs to be much more defensively sound, how confident do you feel with Lucas? I hear Spence is decent defensively, or Doherty. I feel much more comfortable with Emerson. And I think that's kind of the smarter play, which is also one of the reasons why I think if we do move Emerson on, it'll be a loan. It won't be a purchase option because we'll keep that.
Well, our second game is Chelsea. So that's the thing. You're going to have to be pretty defensive at the bridge as well. So
yeah,
the first question is who do we play against with Southampton? The next question is what do we play against Chelsea? Because that's when it's going to be a street fight.
I think you're right.
Playing both games, then I see him playing both.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, isn't it? 6 months ago, most of us wanted Emerson out of the club, but he really grew under Conte. His crossing still concerns me in his final pass, but that game against Liverpool, he was excellent defensively and going forward until he had to cross the ball. Yeah. But
he also doesn't lose possession very much. I noticed he's kind of a very Harry Winks kind of like player where he just makes a lot of sideways safe passes.
Kohler will be steaming.
Yeah.
From a right back, I think that's more excusable. Like it's not excusable to do that as a center mid because the center mid's supposed to be picking apart the team, whereas the right back isn't always supposed to be relied upon with that. I think in our team, the right back is supposed to be picking apart the team. But that's the other thing. It's not like Emerson is also losing the ball every time he touches it. He just sort of touches it, does that hesitation, and passes it back to the guy that he just came from, And that's another thing I kind of admire about him is that when we're playing teams like City and Liverpool and we win the ball and we just need somebody to just kind of keep possession and just kind of stay chill for just a second, he sort of kind of offers that, I think, as well. But we're complementing the basics of the game as well.
I think it's a good shout. Sorry, John. This is a good shout from Stephen, worth touching on as well, because I think there's a few positions that we as fans thought players could play in throughout the season. Where we won't play a 3-5-2 because we don't have a second striker. And we're going, well, Sonny's the second striker. But I think in Conte's head, he's going, I don't have time to teach this person how to play this role. So I'm just going to wait until preseason and we'll play this system. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of shapes and who actually makes it into our squad. Come halfway through this year once he's really bedded in the team into what he wants to do.
Okay, Cam, I'm going to ask you this question. I might chuck it to the other lads as well. This whole moving Lucas to right wing back, is that to create space so that Conte can say, I need another attacking player in the squad?
Yes. Yeah, I do think all the rumours, because I think looking at the profile, besides Maddison, looking at the profile of Zaniolo and others, I think they're bigger players. Let's be honest. Lucas is quite diminutive and quite short, just to be blunt. And judging from the profile of players that he's brought in, they're tall and physical and relatively fit. And looking at the rumours over the last week, the pattern of positions we've been going for has been, an attacking mid. So we missed out on Eriksen. So yes, I think he's wanting to get some more initiative into that attacking midfield to unlock the cupboard door, the pantry door into the goals in the low block, particularly because we've got an industrious midfield, got a great mid, but I think we need the guy that needs to thread the eye through the needle for unlocking defenses. So yes, that's a big yes.
Jack?
Sorry, I was looking at something else. Sorry, I just kind of missed the question there. Apologies.
Okay, the question was, do you think he's actually trying to move Lucas to wing back to create space for another attacking player?
Yeah, I think, yeah, because we were talking about that earlier, and JP kind of sort of got there, I think, before the rest of us when he was saying, like, if Lucas is being considered as a right wing back, probably likely someone else is going to head out the club, I would imagine. And with Lucas being as a right wing back, I think my thinking is it's sort of just for him to get more game time than it really is for him to, kind of, sacrifice his role as an attacking player. I think him as a left wing, as a right wing, he's not really going to get too much game time. He'll play the occasional 10 minutes like Bergwijn did, or he'll come in, for the cup games and whatnot. And perhaps he's kind of gone up to Conte and said, how do I get more game time? And he said, well, if you play right wing back, maybe I might throw you in a few more times. So that's what he's probably gone for, I would imagine.
But you can't mistake. Look, if
he wants more game time, that's what I think he's going to do, is right wing.
Yeah, but you could say his speed. I'm not saying he's got control of the ball, but his work rate and his speed you can't blame. Which you can take the piss out of him a lot, but you got to admit his speed and his run with the ball is quite good. And if he's wanting to get territorial play, Lucas can provide that. I'm not saying he's polished, but if he's wanting to territorially bring the ball up down that flank, yeah, Lucas can do that. Whether he's defensively great, I haven't seen too much of him at right wing back. So, yeah.
He looked awkward in the first game in the K-League, because I think there's a brief spell when in the K-League game he was playing right wing back and he looked very awkward. But then against Sevilla, he actually looked quite decent. So the more that he's trained there, perhaps the better. I think the whole reason, just quickly, that he wasn't ever played at right wing back last season was because it was such a risk to probably do that, in the middle of the campaign when, can he really dedicate 3 hours, 4 hours of a training session to like training Lucas, as a right wing back, where now he has all the time to do that. Whereas before he just didn't have the time to ever train Lucas as a right wing back. So I bet he was considering it last season, but just never had the time to do it. And I feel like we do need another attacking player, to get back to the original question. But with Lucas, I think the whole reason he's being experimented with there is mostly just to see if we could get, something out of him. And also if he wants more game time, that's how he'll get it.
JP?
I mean, yeah, I don't know necessarily that he's being moved there so Conte can say that I need another attacking player. I think we know we need another attacking player. And Conte's recognized that the available minutes for a player of that quality is pretty limited. And so he needs to create another position in the squad where that player can get minutes and they can go and make that pitch to him of, when we play a 3-5-2, you'll play in the middle. And then on other games, you'll play with you and Kulusevski, you'll rotate on the right. And so that's probably why he's looking at, if I shift Lucas to right wing back, then I create minutes up front that I can go and pitch out as part of negotiations for more attacking midfielder like a Zaniolo or a Maddison. So yeah, I think it's got all about, when we talk about squad management and keeping players happy, this is part of that. So how do I create minutes in a squad that's going to give someone enough motivation to need to play more, but also enough available minutes that they're not, sulking around the club.
Good point.
Talking of Zaniolo, Stephen makes a good question here. Something I said to JP just before we went on, and he put his hand in his head in his hands when I said it, that there is discussions of Zaniolo playing at wing back. Do you want to expand on your thoughts, JP?
I mean, we've just talked about how if Lucas is playing right wing back, we've got 4 right wing backs and we need to move at least 1, if not 2, out of the club. We're now talking about bringing Zaniolo in as well. I can't see any truth in that, him playing as a right wing back. I can't see any truth in him wanting to play as a right wing back. Though, when I look at his profile, I'm not big on the Zaniolo signing if we're thinking of him as that creative midfielder, because I think he's more of a kind of dribble chaos, kind of ball progressing type midfielder than a unlock defenses with a pass, which is absolutely what we need. We've got
I agree.
Basuma, who can do the dribble part. We've got Bentancur, who can do the dribble progression. We don't have that creative pass first playmaker, and that's 100% what's missing in the squad. And that's why I'm warming to the idea of Maddison, because that is what he is.
And we've got 177 people watching, only 46 likes, which isn't a great ratio at all. Please, can you click that little thumbs up like button for us. It doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, helps get the channel out there, and will stop caller taking the mickey out of us if we don't get anywhere near his almost 8,000 views they got on Monday night. So if you like the guys' views, please click the like button. If you don't like it, just click the like button. It helps us out. And look at these gorgeous guys with hats on that are here with me tonight. Anyway, so yeah, I read today there's discussion of that Spurs would be willing to spend 42.5 million on Zaniolo. Zaniolo. It's an O at the end, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
What do we think of that? What do we think of him, Jack?
I kind of am one of these people that loves to make it harder on myself, and make my answer more complicated. I'll probably just, preface this all and kind of say I completely agree with JP. Like, he's not really the answer to what we actually need from a creative midfielder. Yes, he does all this incredible dribbling, and he's really brave with how he kind of like takes on players and kind of makes things happen. But he doesn't play that killer pass. He doesn't threat that through ball or play that dink over the top or whatever it may be to unlock a team. I feel like I would take him, though, if for the right price. Like, I do love a good deal. And if you do get a good deal on a player, you can maybe actually realize that he could actually offer something that we don't really know that, he can offer. He is also kind of been playing more off the right wing recently. But when he first kind of came onto the scene, and it was kind of a long time ago when he came onto the scene, I feel like he's kind of like Odegaard or something, where he's been around for actually quite a long time, but is still really, really young, like Odegaard is. He used to play through the middle. Like, he used to play as like a center attacking mid, or almost even as a center mid. And I think recently for Jose, he's played as like a second striker. He's played as like a right wing. I like the kid. I think there's real talent in there, but I agree with JP. I think he's just not going to really actually fix every single problem that we know that creative midfielder would fix. He would sort of fix the problems, but not entirely. For like 30 million pounds, I think he would actually be a good deal for like 30 million pounds, but I would not pay 40 million. Would not pay 40 million.
JP, do you want to comment on this comment? Do you think Zaniolo has a higher ceiling than Maddison? Who we'll get to Maddison in a minute, but I think this is quite an interesting thing because I can't see us signing both. It will be one or the other, but they're very different players.
And Zaniolo might very well have a higher ceiling than Maddison, but it's a different, like, it's the same position on the pitch, but a different role. And so you're not really comparing the two. I don't see, in my head, this is not an or signing. Is it Zaniolo or is it Maddison to play that role? For me, it's, well, do we want to go and sign another player who can dribble and play off the right? Or do we want to go and sign someone who's going to stand in the middle of the pitch and be that kind of turnkey to unlock defenses creatively in the middle?
He's way more versatile than Maddison, Zaniolo.
He is, yeah. And I think there's a lot. The club will look at Zaniolo and go, yeah, there's a lot we can get out of him. And I really like the idea of Kulusevski and Zaniolo being those players playing off the right. I think both of them give us very similar things. And Zaniolo is versatile enough to play through the middle. So if we want to play a 3-5-2, he can. But he's not a pass-first playmaker, which we're still missing in the squad.
I completely agree.
Yeah, look, with Zaniolo is an interesting one because, look, I've done some recent research on him, and look, his stats are pretty modest. In his 3 years, he's scored only about 12 goals. He's only had about 6 assists. XG's okay, but I think this is a Paratici eye test kind of thing. He's 6'3".
He did blow up in the Conference League. I think that's where it also is coming from. He kind of carried Roma through those kind of final kind of stages in the Conference League, even more than Tammy Abraham carried them. I think he kind of carried them.
I think he's got a higher ceiling. I think his work rate, he's fast. I think he's got a higher work rate than Eriksen. I think he can thread a pass, but he's only 21, and I had a look at his injury record, and of those 3 years, he's had just a bit over 3 years, 1 year off in that entire career of his at pro level with knee injuries. So I'm like, we're putting all this money into a guy that's missed over a season of football. It's high risk because his stats are really modest. But then watching the videos of him, I'm like, there's a player here, and if he plays at national level, he's 6'3" as well. That's that big Conte kind of player, physically speaking. He could actually be a success because I think Paratici's watched a ton of videos on this guy. Probably watched them in person as well. And I think I can see how it could work in the more physical EPL setup. It's high risk, though. It could be high risk, high reward, but I acknowledge both of your comments there, especially I think 45 mil is way too high. It has to be anything from 30 mil down for sure for this guy. He's done an ACL, and ACLs are horrendous.
He's done 2.
He's done it twice.
Yeah. I think this, if ever a transfer fee was a Daniel Levy special with add-ons, it would be this. It'd have to be.
Yeah,
if he's got that
could see
much
it
of a
being
history.
like 15 million in add-ons, something like that.
Was it euros or pounds, John?
Well, it said pounds, but I would suspect it's more likely to be euros.
Yeah,
I know because we were linked with him a couple of seasons ago when Jose was in charge, and like Roma were like, nah, no chance, like 70 million. So yeah, like I struggle.
It's also because he's been out for so long that everything's like sort of stalled, and then when he's back, people like realize, okay, like that we have, this is a real player that we have in our hands, and I think coming from our end, we're like, he hasn't done anything for 2 years, and it's like, yeah, but he's also had these serious injuries, and it's kind of complicated where it's like, it looks like, he's kind of continuing in the same vein of form that he sort of had before he got those huge injuries, but yeah, huge risk.
I think John Boone's comment here about he'll have medicals is pretty obvious, but yes, it's right. And they will look at we see the medicals now. In the old days, it was like about a 5-minute medical, wasn't it? Or a file was given. Now they have all day. They have all sorts of tests. And they would be looking at his ACLs to see how he'd have scans and x-rays, all sorts, I think. So
it would be in their imperative to look through the types of ACLs he's done as well. Those doctors will scan up and down the history of that, because if you're putting 30-something mil, 40-something mil into that, those doctors want to know top to bottom, left to right, everything about those ACLs.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to say good evening to Richo, our resident Everton fan, who can't be in a good place right now.
Yeah.
Sold us their best player, got smashed 4-0 by Adrian Heath and Everton legends. Was it Orlando? Minnesota. Sorry, Orlando lost to Arsenal, didn't they? Minnesota, yeah. And Frank does not look well, which I'm sorry, Richo, but that's brilliant from our point of view because we are not his fans.
Richo, what's the betting market on Lampard making it to the first game of the season?
I mean, I like Everton as a club, so I don't want to see them like really struggling. So it's from that, but it's Lampard.
Sooner they sack him, the better. Then Sooner they sack him, the better.
Good evening, Gov, one of our Patreons, and if you'd like to be a Patreon, I'll put the little ticker up in a minute. Maybe JP, you can tell the lovely ladies and gentlemen what it's like to be a Patreon. What do we get?
What it's like to be a Patreon? Well, other than some of the fantastic merch that we have on the Cheese Room, which I'm looking around for now, you could be drinking your morning coffee out of a mug like this. You get to chat with all of us lovely people and the hundreds of other passionate Spurs fans all around the world. There's a conversation happening at every minute of the day. So don't feel like if you're in Brazil or you're in Australia or the UK that you're going to miss out, because there's people all around the world watching the Cheese Room. And yeah, it's really just a place of a community for us cheeseheads to come and chat all things Spurs and stay up to date on the latest. There's good banter, bit of biffo going on. So it's all good fun. Highly recommend getting on board.
Yeah, Cam, obviously myself, JP and Cam, we all sort of got our way into this channel from the Patreon group itself. Cam, what's your favourite chat in there? Because there's a number of chats we have in the
the cricket one's good when Australia plays England, but besides that, the transfer, I can wake up and see all the transfer rumours and innuendo from just the transfer chat without going on the internet, because we've got 11-hour, 9-hour difference. But yeah, great chats on there, but in different subject matters. But I'm still waiting for Dave Harris's poem from Saturday or two ago.
He had a great one last week.
Yeah, that's the one he wants. I thought I clipped it, but maybe I think you want the actual written words. Dave, send a picture, don't you? Come on, Dave, you can do. I know he's in the chat.
An ode to Levy, I think it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And what else we got? So we've got the fantasy football and prediction leagues are obviously about to start. and there are prizes for that. Keith put up a lovely picture of his Tony Galvin signed 1983-4 shirt today, and I think Aviva wants to know where hers is, mate. Might be that she's coming over for the Southampton game, so Franco will give it to her then. And what else we've got? We've got the cricket, we've got international football, we've got the a chat I hope we don't use for a while, which is the next manager chat, which obviously got used a lot last year. Fancy football general chat, ticket share. That's one we do. There's a lot of people saying I can't go to this game. Does anyone want my ticket? Or people asking questions. We share information about how easy it is to get tickets for the guys coming from abroad, that sort of thing. So it's worth a go. £3 a month. Patreon.com/Cheese Room Podcast, and that is my bit of advertising for today.
Cheaper than a London pint.
Yeah.
Well, probably a half pint, to be honest. But also, we get to wind Paul Muir up by saying that Richarlison's brilliant, and so is James Maddison. Talking of James Maddison, shall we discuss him? Here's a slightly grainy picture, which I won't read. It looks a bit like a FIFA picture, doesn't it?
It does a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get a better one.
It's cartoonized.
We'll get rid of this one. So, quite a long report, if I get my run sheet up, about Leicester apparently are in a little bit of bother, which I hadn't really realised. They are the only Premier League team to have not made a signing, and the season starts 2 weeks' time. So, from the sounds of it, they need to sell to buy. Obviously, the two particular players, Tielemans and Maddison, have been linked with a number of clubs. Tielemans originally with us until we bought Basuma, and now Manchester United and Arsenal. Let's hope he goes to Manchester United ahead of Arsenal, because that'll be funny if they miss out on another player. And Maddison's only really been linked with us. Now, the suggested price is 60 million. If we could get 20 of that off by giving them Mr. Winks, would you be happy, Jack?
Especially getting rid of Winks as well. Absolutely. I would take that any day. James Maddison, I feel like, is when I said earlier with Zaniolo, I would be really kind of price sensitive, whether I would take him. With James Maddison, I don't think I would be so price sensitive, because when you really look at it, how many English, homegrown, creative midfielders of his sort of quality are actually out there on the market? I think he's probably the only one. I guess Jesse Lingard, who's obviously not of his quality, would have been the other one that you could have gone for that was homegrown. And I feel like when you have an opportunity to get someone like James Maddison, you kind of just do whatever you can. If you do want him, do whatever you can to get him in. And 60 million, I think, is an absolute steal. Will you get 20 million knocked off with Harry Winks? Really doubt it. I think you'll probably get like 5 or 10, maybe, like knocked off. I really don't think he knocks off that much. I think if you were to try to throw Lo Celso in, maybe you could get like 20 million, knocked off. I think he would be probably the most, I think JP said it earlier, kind of like ideal signing for what we actually want from the creative midfielder, someone who can actually unlock a defense with passing, not like dribbling or, like some other sort of, kind of characteristic, just someone who can thread a through ball, can play like a deep, ball in, from kind of a wide area that no one expects someone to put in a good ball from, someone who just sort of kind of picks apart defenses with kind of, just their own mind, or sometimes just with their own ability. He also has really good shots, kind of from range. So I think that could help us out. I don't know too many midfielders apart from Basuma, I guess, that, we've brought in that actually can shoot from range. So I'm actually excited about that as well. It's like, if James Maddison, if you give him the ball at the top of the box and he has a ton of room, he's going to almost bury it as likely as Harry Kane probably would bury it, from those situations. So I do really like the James Maddison signing if it were to happen. And the reason I think they are...
comment there, though, about they surely won't sell Maddison if Tielemans is heading for the Gooners.
This is true. I offered this theory, though. They went through that kind of issue with Tielemans before, where he kind of, what did he kind of throw his toys out the pram? He kind of seemed to down tools and everything, with that Europa League, Leicester side. I think they originally started in the Europa League, and he was downing tools from the beginning of the season. I'd like to think that James Maddison might do the same thing, if they're not even in any sort of Europa football of any kind. He might down tools as well. And, he might say to Leicester City, like, listen, like, I think you guys should sell me because, I feel like I'm much better than, being in a team that doesn't have European football right now. So I think that's what the case is that he's probably not a player that you can keep around when you don't have European football.
I think like it'd be great to have a Leicester fan on here to tell us what the heck is going on with their club, because you would not have.
I can read you a bit of John Percy, who is a reporter who specialises on the sort of East Midlands area, wrote an article last week, and it basically says that it's less than 3 weeks until the start of the Premier League season, so it's now 2 weeks, and Leicester City are the only club in the division yet to make a summer signing. The healthy shake-up targeted by Brendan Rodgers has not materialised so far, and Leicester's transfer window appears stuck in a state of paralysis. The unpalatable truth, in simple terms, is that Leicester have to sell players before they can buy. It's a logjam that is providing a huge frustration. Leicester's wages to turnover ratio is very high and simply unsustainable at the current levels. There are too many highly paid players spending their weekends doing nothing on match days. Financial losses for next year on current projections could be over 90 million. Yet the commitment of the owners of King Power remains unwavering, and its size of the squad and financial fair play. It's the size of the squad and financial fair play that are the biggest concerns. Now, Maddison is apparently on 110 grand a week, which is quite, for a club like Leicester, is a lot of money. For a club like Spurs, 5 years ago was a lot of money. In the grand scheme of things, now it's not so much. I imagine Tielemans is on a whack because he signed a new contract a couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So they probably need to get them off the wage bill as much as they need the transfer fees in, and they need to refresh their squad. You know, they were punching a bit above their weight, certainly financially.
If you want to revamp the squad, you got to probably sell.
They need to revamp the squad and almost start again. They need to bring some. They brought Maddison for 25 million as a young player from Norwich who did very well. They need to find those next players, like we talked about with Spence earlier. We've brought the players in. That's Leicester's business model, isn't it? They bought Ndidi for a very small fee. They bought Mahrez for a very small fee.
Conte.
They could get close to 100 million. They could get close to 100 million for both Tielemans and James Maddison, and that would be a good budget to work with.
I think with Leicester, they went into this season going, look, we'll get 30 million for Tielemans, and we'll probably sell like a Castagna or someone like that. And there's 60 million that we can kind of revamp the squad with. But it all kind of hinged on Tielemans, and I think they thought that he'd be snapped up really quickly. And that's just not happened for one reason or another. If I'm Leicester, I cannot let Tielemans and Maddison go.
Yeah.
That can't happen. So any chance we have, I think they'll be up for selling Maddison if it means they can sign Tielemans down to a new contract. And
could they let it happen though? Because like Calvin Phillips and Rafinha, went for Leeds
going down.
Yeah, well, they're not going down now, but they were. Yeah, they were going down at one stage.
I have real worries about Leeds.
It's like heart transplant surgery. They're literally going to then replicate with two cheaper players, essentially taking out two main players and fulfilling.
I just think James Maddison is like going to fall down the same pathway that Tielemans did. I'd be surprised if he didn't down tools like Tielemans did with a season with no European football and whatnot. And I'd imagine that Leicester could be somewhat aware of that he doesn't really have a lot of reasons to stay or like a lot of reasons to show Leicester a ton of faith. He's been there a while, and he didn't down tools like Tielemans did last season. I feel like if they wanted to revamp the squad, I wouldn't say they'd be smart to sell James Maddison, but I feel like they're sort of inclined to sell James Maddison, if that makes sense.
I just don't think it's smart for them to sell Maddison. Tielemans has a year left on his contract.
Like I said, it's not smart, but they might be inclined to. That's a different.
It's just a very different situation. Like if I'm Maddison, I'm not kicking up a stink because I'm definitely moving next year. Everybody on my contract.
But Tielemans, didn't do that. That's the problem, right? He was going to move the following season.
But I think he's a different player. And like if I'm Leicester, I'm only selling Maddison if I get Tielemans down on a new contract or I bring someone in. And if they have to sell to buy, that's not happening. The only other way it'll happen is if they get to the end of the window, a week left, we've still made no business, and the only offer we've got is for Maddison, then we'll do it, which is why I think this, if it happens, will happen really late, and why I think there's probably some truth in the Zaniolo stuff. And so I think it might be a case of we'll go in and get Zaniolo who can play on the right wing. And then if Maddison happens to be available as a deadline day special, we'll go and get it done.
Yeah,
I think hold out.
Depends if they want to sign players. I think Leicester might end up having to do a lot of deals late, but almost Levy-esque, trying to get those two players. Tielemans has to go ultimately. for them, because if they can get 40 million and if they are in financial trouble, they'll have to sell him. And if Maddison's only got 2 years left, they're going to struggle probably next year to get a really big fee for him. It's a bit like
That's
when
the
we tried,
point, too.
with Ericsson, we tried to get silly money, didn't we, for him?
They'll get similar
ended up
money,
getting-
25, 30 million kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Better to
But,
cash in now. If they're forced to cash in now, it's better to cash in now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do we see, if we sign Maddison, obviously everyone's like, well, where's he fit in the 3-4-3? My view is that it gives flexibility. So we can play a 3-5-2, if you like. Do we think that he could fit in the 3-4-3 somewhere, JP?
He'll play off the right, and he'll play more. He'll play coming inside a lot more. When you watch him play, those like attacking midfielders, they do kind of play across the line like that, right? So he would just start outside and end up drifting inside more, which actually I think works for us because it gives room for the Doherty, Spence, Royales to go in behind. So I can see it working. I think it'll just be a different type of. He'll just give a different dimension to when he's on, to when a Kulusevski plays, who likes to hang out wide, grab the ball, beat a man around him, and then come inside. Whereas I think he'll step inside to receive the ball more and start driving at players, and either have the overlap from the wing backs or be able to thread the balls through to the Kanes and Son.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Cam?
Yeah, look, James said perfectly. Or Richarlison or whoever's playing up there if Kane or Son's not there. So, yeah, initially I didn't think so, but James has just brought that to light. I thought it'd be 3-5 or 3-5-2, but yeah, I'd have to replicate James's comments there. Can't mistake him for that.
Flat Cat?
This is sort of interesting to bring it back to Zaniolo. You do kind of feel like Zaniolo fits in around in various formations just so much more seamlessly than Maddison does. And if you're going to pay all that money for Maddison, you do hope that there's, some sort of position there for him. If we do get him, I actually see us doing some sort of hybrid, like maybe JP was saying, up the 3-4-3 and then doing a lot of the 3-5-2 of some kind. Maybe we make kind of a dramatic sort of kind of transition from the 3-4-3 that we knew it from last season. It might look very, very different if we brought in Maddison. If we brought in Zaniolo, I feel like probably the formation and the style and everything might not change too heavily. Whereas if we brought in Maddison, I'd actually expect it to change a lot if we brought in him.
Yeah, okay. I just think I think probably 25 million, not 25,000, David. I think there's just a slight typo on that one. I'm gonna just highlight this one for a second. Adrian, we're gonna get to the outs quite soon. So we will just, if you guys have a think actually on this one, and everyone in the comments, how much do you think we can get? I think Tanganga's going on loan. I don't know if we're going to sell him. But for Reggie, Winks, Rodon, Lo Celso, Ndombele, maybe one of our 92 right wing backs as well. Have a little think about that. We'll have a discussion about that in a little bit. Right. Parav, good evening, Parav. Zaniolo played a very similar to Kulu. Maddison fits in well because if Conte goes after a couple of seasons, the new manager will have a cam for a 4-2-3 or 1. How many teams play that? Because obviously Liverpool play 4-3-3. City are pretty much 4-3-3, aren't they? Chelsea, we don't know how they're going to play this year because they're still in transition. Arsenal play 4-2-3 when they get. Oh no, they've been playing 4-3-3 as well, haven't they? A lot of the time.
I think
It really depends on the manager you get. I think
for me, it's not so much like needing Maddison to play that position or needing someone for that position. It's needing someone who can, when you're parked on the edge of the box and trying to get through, has that vision to slip a pass or to. How many times have we seen him play against us and he's done a couple of little dummies for someone running through? Like hasn't even had
just shooting from range. Like he can hit it from like 30 yards and like just get you out, and that sort of.
It's just
someone
someone
That's probably the thing I'm thinking about more.
Yeah. That's something we don't have in the squad as well, but someone who can see the intricacies when you need to break someone down and he's not just trying to like brute their way through it. I think he's that kind of smart player is something that every team needs. Whether he plays 90 minutes every game, or whether he plays 20 minutes in half the games, we just don't have that and we need it.
He also has the world-class moment in him as well, and that's what I think I mean by those like long-distance sort of efforts that he has, where if we're like stuck and out of ideas, Maddison is the one that I could see just like taking the touch to the outside and just hitting it from 30 yards and it just goes in. sort of player. Zaniolo, I don't think that's really the case, and a lot of players that isn't the case. Maddison does have that sort of, not saying he is a world-class player, but he has that sort of like world-class moment in him. And that is kind of worth any price at a certain stage.
Jack, can I ask, when did you start following Spurs?
2011, 2012, end of Redknapp, beginning of AVB.
So Bentley's probably a little bit before your time.
Yes.
Okay, so boys, do you remember David Bentley?
Yeah, definitely.
I know the name though. I definitely know the name.
Do you think there's a bit of a symmetry with Maddison and Bentley?
Well, I hope Maddison's more mature.
There is, I can understand people seeing the similarities, but I think Maddison is a far better player.
Yeah, I'll go that. I think also Bentley, it was Bentley at the time. Spurs weren't as competitive back in Bentley's time as they are now, with a manager who's an absolute hard ass. So I think with a manager like Conte at the helm, he could mature Maddison a lot quicker than what Bentley was. I mean, I'd agree Maddison's a better player. I think Bentley was more of a cowboy at times, but I think mentally, I think Conte's a smart manager, and I think he can get the best out of Maddison for sure.
Yeah, just looking at some of the comments here. Bentley tried to imitate Beckham. He had a very, very similar style. Like Maddison, liked his haircut. Like to do that. Right, shall we move on? Shall we discuss this man? Obviously, with Lewandowski signing for Barca for some ridiculous fee. Is it 50 million euros or something for a 33-year-old? I read. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be
Whatever
wrong.
will bankrupt them in 3 years.
This man is surely got to leave Barca. Aubameyang plays on the left now. We've got Rafinha on the right. He hasn't had the most successful time in the new camp. He has been loosely linked with us, and I don't know if I've got the other slide. Apparently, has been linked with 2 Premier League clubs, or 2 Premier League clubs have inquired. Is he too similar to what we have, Jack?
Yes, but this is the thing. Like, if Conte doesn't really want a creative midfielder in the way that we think he does, and you also have Harry Kane, who can technically drop deep and sort of form the 3-5-2 with Richarlison and Sonny. If you brought in someone like Depay, that would legitimately mean like you could just drop Harry Kane deep into a 3-5-2, put Richarlison, put Sonny or Depay up top. Technically, Kulusevski could also play up there as well. He plays technically alongside Isak. I think he played alongside Isak for Sweden, and or he plays the 3-4-3, which he does really well. I think with Depay, it's kind of like the Zaniolo thing. It's like, yes, it's not Maddison. He doesn't solve the problems that JP is clearly, totally right about. But he sort of makes sense if you're trying to like rotate the squad in kind of a very effective and kind of seamless way. Like if you lose Sonny, Depay would be an unbelievable player to bring in as like an alternative to Sonny. Same thing with Richarlison. That's why the Richarlison signing made so much sense. I'd actually love the Depay signing, mostly because I think you're going to get him for really cheap. I think it'd be like 15, 20 million, which if you ask me, I think he's worth way more than that. He sort of also plays as a bit of a creative kind of player anyway. He likes to drop deep. He likes to run in behind. He kind of is, more of a number 10 anyways, the way that he likes to play. So I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Depay, and I think he's actually disrespected, if you ask me, with what he achieved at Lyon, what he even did at Barcelona. The moment that he came into that Barca team, which in that Ronald Koeman team, he hit the ground running. He was doing really well in that team. When Xavi came in, Xavi has clearly very expensive tastes. Didn't really want, Depay in the team. So if you ask me, Depay, he doesn't fix all of our problems, but he sort of kind of gives us that 3-5-2, 3-4-3 flexibility. Like he really contributes to that flexibility.
So could he be, obviously we signed Richarlison, JP, but he does almost, but from what Jack's described, he would almost fit in the Kane role where someone who can drop deep and go forward.
Yeah, he would. I see like he's a good fit for this, like the team, and I guess giving us depth in positions. But again, I think it's starting to get to or not and territory with the signings that we're looking at now. And if we sign Depay, I don't think he improves where we're lacking at the moment. Gives us great depth, gives us great options, makes us definitely more of an attacking threat if we lose one of that front three. But he doesn't fill the gaps in the squad that need filling at the moment, and I think it would take away from a position. So I'm not big on it. I also think, was there any truth in the reports that he'd come out and said absolutely no way, I'm not going to Tottenham?
I've heard even him kind of rejecting moves to the Premier League in general. I think
I think he's pretty jaded by his time in the Premier League, and I don't think he's keen on a return.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about all this. He's had a couple of disappointing stints, obviously at United, and I just don't know if he's once bitten, twice shy, kind of coming back to England. I don't look during his time at United, and it wasn't a big focus on United during his time there, but he obviously couldn't integrate too well. And I think if he's mates with Bergwijn, I don't think Bergwijn's going to advertise Tottenham too highly to him anyway. So I'm on the fence with this one. I can see the pros, I can see the against.
He's a way better player than Bergwijn, so that's why I kind of would hope that he wouldn't let Bergwijn influence him. But you're right, they are friends, him and Bergwijn, and I would imagine he would influence him. But Depay is just leaps and bounds a better player than Bergwijn.
There's a lot of chat in the comments as well about Depay being a bit of a sulker, and he won't be happy sitting on the bench. As much as I want people that are not happy on the bench and they want to fight for their spot, we can't have these attitudes in the squad.
I just don't even know how true that is, though, because he played at Lyon where he played all the time. So, and he plays for the Dutch team where he plays all the time. He went to Barcelona. He played all the time until Xavi came. And then he didn't exactly complain a ton. I think it was just tabloids and speculation saying he was upset, but of course he was upset. He was brought in to be the main man, and then Xavi, comes in and says you're no longer the main man, I want you out. I think anybody would be sort of a bit disgruntled by that. If you ask me, he's sort of been the main man his whole career, and now he's going to have to consider maybe not being the main man. If he's going to sulk about that, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that he would sulk, because he's always been the main man, essentially.
I won't believe that until we are 4 points clear with one game to go. I've been a Tottenham fan far too long. I mean, I remember this kit being used in the 80s. So I just looked up. Apparently, Depay is on £158,000 a week. That was playing at Lyon. So God knows what he's on at Barca. And the problem is, apart from the clubs in the Premier League, who can really afford that? Bayern probably can. They don't need him. So I think unless he's willing to take a big pay cut, he isn't going back to France, because he won't. I can't see him at PSG.
I think he took a pay cut to go to Barcelona, though. Barcelona seems to be doing this.
Not getting paid at all.
Aubameyang did actually, didn't he? Yeah. Oh, here we go. Barcelona forced to cut Memphis pay by 30%. Apparently, just 3 weeks after he joined, they had to cut his salary by 30%.
I think they he came in they didn't improve his wages. I think he might have come in on 150, and then
he's now on 82k a week. My heart bleeds for him, but still, not many clubs can afford that sort of thing apart from in the UK.
But if Parrott and Conte are talking to each other, and you're saying his Depay's character's like that, I can see Conte kiboshing that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't think we won't sign him if there's any truth to that. So. We can probably not worry about it, but it's just one of those ones I don't see happening. I think it's one of those ones that Paratici's kind of put the feelers out there and gone, all right, well, and I'm totally guessing the order here, but if Maddison is the ideal first pick, then what's our second pick? So we're not desperate. We've got Zaniolo, and then, if we can't get either of those two in, where else do we go? Well, Depay will give us more depth up front, so that's another thing we could look at. So, I don't think we're actively bidding for all of these three. I think we've identified there's room for one more attacking type player in the squad. And it'll be kind of one of the three we've talked about. And we'll just wait and see what happens.
So I'm going to bring up this comment. which will link us in nicely to our next player. Romero gets injured and we're back to square one without another quality centre-back. Obviously, we all had a little panic when we saw the team in the North London derby and saw the name Davinson Sanchez at right centre-back. And the first 10 minutes, I was in our WhatsApp group not happy because it didn't look good. And Steve Diver, to his credit, was like, John, calm. It's early on. And he did actually okay. But there's a huge gulf between Romero and Sanchez, clearly. I think Sanchez is probably one player that we could get some money on. He's quite highly thought of from the continent, and especially as Sevilla are about to get some money in for Kunde and will need centre back. Hopefully, that might be an option. But with Adam's comment, I think we need to revisit this guy. Now, I said, I can't remember what it was. It was weeks and weeks ago when his agent came out and said he's not going. I said I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't the end of it. And then I honestly thought it was the end of it. And now we discover that Inter have said they are not selling Skriniar. So it's pretty much felt they need to sell a player or two because they've made a lot of signings, haven't they? Yep. Could Bastoni be another option? Could he be coming in as the Dyer replacement possibly or backup? Well, he wouldn't be backup, would he? Or would he be the left-sided one?
Well,
JP.
Juve's just bought Bremer, so that's put a cat amongst the pigeons.
JP?
This has like deadline day written all over it. If it happens, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Vardiol's not something we're still sniffing around on. But I think it's similar to you, John. I kind of looked at it and I said, yeah, that's all good and well. I think they want to move Skriniar on, but I think all the deals they had lined up for Skriniar have kind of fallen through. So it's not we're not selling Skriniar, we don't need to sell. It's crap, we're not selling Skriniar, make it known so that some bids come in for some other players. I would love Bastoni still. We've obviously signed Langley, who kind of plays that same position. So we're strengthening very much the left-hand side. The Romero spot is where we're still weak. I would be keen, if we're going to sell one of our defenders to bring money in, to actually keep Tanganga around. Because I think his ceiling and potential for growth is a lot higher. And then you've got Langley and let's say a deal for Bastoni becomes available who can cover that kind of middle and left side. I think that would be where I'm looking at. But I also don't want to get my hopes up on this because I think we're not actively looking for it. There's a deal to be done next summer.
I mean, Adam makes a good point. If we make a £60 million bid, we get him. Simple. It's probably not that simple. 60 million is a lot of money.
I think we did offer 60 million. In fact, I think it was actually higher that they wanted, because didn't we offer like 58 million pounds or something? And that was like right at the asking price. And then they said like, no, like we offered like the bare minimum asking price and then they rejected us, supposedly.
Well, it's a simple 58 million.
Is Chelsea still in the hunt? Because I can just see them
just
trying to harpoon a deal, that we're doing. And I can't see 58 doing it, particularly with Chelsea around, probably wanting to watch us do our deals and then harpoon right at the end there. It's an interesting.
I think they brought in Kunde. They might be satisfied. I think Koulibaly and Kunde.
Yeah. Well, they've lost 3 centre backs, haven't they? And they're about to lose the left wing back. I mean, this is a good point. Longley can play in the centre, and why no Kim Min Jae? He was discussed last week. Just from what we've seen from our South Korea tour, and I can tell you, even from our viewers on this channel, we get a huge amount of South Korean viewers. So there is a big love for Tottenham Hotspur. So I can see Daniel Levy thinking about the pound notes that are going to come in if we sign another top Korean player. So we can't discount it by any means, and he'd certainly be cheaper than Bastoni. But if
he's gone to Napoli,
Bastoni,
I believe he's gone to Napoli.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's why then. I will shut up. Yes, he didn't have a great time at Barca, but many players have had poor times. Kulusevski and Bentancur struggled at Juve, and they basically helped us get to the Champions League. So
true. You
have to give players time, don't you? Yeah, Adam has confirmed that. He's going to Napoli. And yes, King Hodlow agreed. Dyer does need to be pushed to a state. He's still got a mistake. Davo often says he's got a mistake in him. I know his stats said he didn't give away any goals last year, but I remember the North London derby gave away the ball in a dangerous area. Against Norwich, he did it, and they could have easily scored.
He also had 2 goals, I think he gave away against Newcastle in that one game where he had the own goal he had against Newcastle off his knee. Yeah. And then before that, the opening goal that Callum Wilson scored, that was Dyer's man, if I recall. I think a lot of people blame Romero, but I was like, Dyer is like, the main center back there. That's Dyer's man every time. And he also, I think, gave away. Yeah, no, that's sometimes this, especially how did that not given as an error? He hit it off his own knee from outside the box into his own net. I think.
Oh yeah, from the free kick. Yeah, I remember now.
That was one of the best finishes, almost better than Reguilón's finish for an own goal, actually. Almost better than Reguilón's finish.
We will get to Reguilón, don't worry. So, shall we have a little chat? We've gone through all the players. Yeah, we've gone through the potential ins for now. Shall we have a chat about these guys? So, Harry Winks, been a bit quiet this week, but we are hearing Palace. I've definitely been told. I've got some quite good ITK on that Palace are interested in Winks. I didn't think that Vieira would be, but apparently they are very interested. Leicester's obviously been linked. Everton have been linked. I'm not sure who else, but I think it's pretty safe to say that he will be leaving the club. I'll be very surprised, given he was left at home with these other three players. That's going to be a done deal. I've heard a rumour Reguilón's actually already in Seville. And I don't know if you've watched all the videos that's gone out this week. I haven't seen any of these four players in the Spurs training videos. So either they've been sent to train with the kids or sent to train somewhere else, or they're off finding moves. I think I can see Reguilón going to Seville. He's played there before. They've got £55 million coming their way from Chelsea.
Yep.
Makes sense. Ndombele isn't going to go to the last minute, is he? Let's face it. It'll be a loan deal. We'll have to pay off his wages.
Can we loan him to KFC?
I just hope I hope a Saudi sort of club comes in, like some sort of Saudi club comes in. That
where was Alderweireld? Because he's just left the Middle East, hasn't he? He's gone back to he's gone to Antwerp? He's gone to Belgium. So they freed up some wages.
Whatever club would pay the majority of his wages, I think is what we want. Maybe some Saudi club or something like that could technically do that. I don't know. That could be an interesting one.
Could Mourinho go in for Tongi?
Say again?
Could Mourinho go in for Tongi? Like he provoked Tongi into some form of performance under his short reign at Spurs.
He did.
It's the wages. We'll end up having to pay part of the wages, which is why I think it all goes to the end, because we'll hope we might get 2 or 3 clubs trying to go for him and play off. That's what I honestly think. And Lo Celso, go on.
So I was going to say, I reckon Conte could look at just changing his position as well, though. Like he could go from being the midfielder to like the kit man, and I think that would work out quite well from everyone's
perspective. I think that's quite harsh against Steve Dukes, the kit man. He's a very nice man.
Yeah, no,
does a lot of charity work.
We've got a winner in that position.
We have got a top bloke in that position. But if with a guy you just mentioned, Japhet Tanganga, AC Milan discussed with Spurs, as I understand, Paratici visited Milan this week, about the possibility of Japhet Tanganga going there and a possible loan for Pape Matar Sarr. I have read today that Sarr has said he doesn't want to leave Spurs at this time, which is good. If that's true, that's good for him.
Yeah.
As long as it's not 25k, David, we'll be all good. Japhet Tanganga, you already said you want to keep him, JP. Cameron, would you be bothered if he left?
I'd actually like him to go to AC. I think for his development. I mentioned this a few weeks ago when I was on. I think it will mature him, and I think the Italian setup and defensive mechanisms within the Italian league, I actually think it would be good for his development, given it's a loan move but not permanent. I'd only put him out in loan because I think Italian leagues are far more defensive than what the EPL is, and I think coming back would actually get a greater, improved, developed mentally as well. Tanganga, which I think he needs. So I think it's a positive. So, yeah, I would say yes.
I really agree there. Tanganga, I think I've said a lot of times, if he actually wants to hit that ceiling that JP was kind of talking about, I don't think he's going to do that in the Premier League. I think he clearly needs to improve on his technical side of his game. I feel like he is a good defender. Yeah. He has all the attributes to be a good defender. He seems to enjoy defending, which is always a good sign when a player enjoys defending. But his technical side to his game, I think, is really, really poor at a lot of scenarios, if you ask me, especially when it comes to just like, I don't know, like when you play for a top class team, like as a center back, you need to be able to deal with pressure. You need to be able to, like find that pass when someone's putting you under pressure. Seems like Tanganga, whether playing right back or center back, if you just put a bit of pressure on him, he's just going to send it long every time. He's going to send it out of bounds. He's just going to, he just seems to get really flustered in those scenarios. And if he goes to, the Serie A, like Cameron was saying, I think he really, improved some of those technical aspects of his game, because they do rely on you to be able to kind of dictate play, be able to spread passes, be able to kind of, be more than just a defender in the Serie A. So I think if he wants to hit that ceiling JP is talking about, which I think we all think he can hit, he's going to need to go to the Serie A. As much as we need to keep him for homegrown reasons, he's a valuable homegrown spot. If he actually wants to hit the ceiling that he's capable of, he's going to need to go to the Serie A.
Yeah.
We've got 370 people watching and 114 likes has been put up there. Please, can you click the like button? Help us out. Let's get the likes up there. It's great to see so many of you watching, and we'd love to keep you. We'd love more and more people to watch it. So if you click the like button, it really helps us with the old algorithm. It's come a bit of a running joke now in our after show comments. Likey. Thank you very much. We shall move on. There was a post like I just put up. Sorry, not a like, a comment about a loan. It'll be a loan with a 14 million deal at the end. Is 14 million enough for Tanganga? JP says no.
I mean, it's probably he's probably a good price for him if we were looking to sell, but I don't want us to be looking to sell Tanganga. I've still got a lot of hope that he'll become a really good Premier League player.
I don't want another fourth situation here.
No, it's different though. It's different because he is.
He has Premier League attributes with how physical he is and how strong he is and how fast he is.
He has everything in the tank to be a really good Premier League defender. He just needs to get minutes. And I'm not opposed to the Serie A move, but I'd also think that a loan move to a Forest would be really good for him as well. So
I just feel like he knows the Premier League already. Maybe that's, I don't know where Cameron and I feel. I feel like I know he doesn't get a lot of minutes for Spurs, but technically he has had a lot of minutes for Spurs to experience the Premier League and understand what Premier League teams are like. I think he needs something different. I think he would do well at a Forest, don't get me wrong, but I don't know what he learns from a Forest. Maybe I don't know what he learns there.
Yeah, I've been told he's a local lad, very local lad as well, and I think all he knows is Tottenham in the Premier League. So I think for him to, as I said, mentally, I think going onto the continent and actually playing and probably learning new systems, new culture, whether it be in the locker room and or generally, I think it's a win-win for Spurs in the long run. Definitely, because I think if all he knows is the EPL and Tottenham, I think he just needs to broaden his view and his horizons and probably teaching down in defensively and technically in Italy. And I think it's a benefit in the long run for Spurs.
Just on this one, Tanganga to Celtic. I've got a bit of love for Celtic, as everyone knows.
No, I think that'd be worse. I'd rather he go to Forest. I'd rather you go to Forest.
Yeah, Tanganga would destroy the SPL.
We wouldn't learn anything about him there. No, I think he wouldn't.
He'd have to improve his ability on the ball because it's an even quicker game than the Premier League. But Cameron Carter
also he would be on the ball all the time. As a Celtic player, it is that you're not defending probably very much. You're actually on the ball all the time. So,
but JP doesn't Ange play the ball to the ground as well?
Yeah, I mean, for his development as a ball playing centre back would be great because he'll get experience. But I think there's levels, right? And I think he's ready to play at another level.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere quickly because he was getting. I took this little clip out of the Spurs play video they put on the Twitter earlier. He was getting on a plane to Rangers, which we'll come to in a bit later.
Celtic, he could be just saving money on an extra airfare.
Yeah.
And we just another 5 on Jed, 1 airfare for Jaffet.
Maybe so. Another player we have talked about possibly going to Italy again. Sarr has won Young Player of the Year. I don't know if I got the information. Was that an African one? I think, but yeah, which is a great move. He's looked good in the preseason and the bits I've seen. I think he could be a really good player. I'm really torn whether I want him to go out on loan again or whether we get half a season of seeing him. What do you think, Jack?
I kind of want him to stay, if you ask me. I feel like there's a Harry Winks role in the squad for somebody. I think Papa Matasar could take that Harry Winks role.
Surely.
No, what I mean by that is just the minutes. Like Harry Winks would get, the last 10 minutes of a game when really there was no danger. He would get, the beginning round of the cup games. He would start in those kind of games when you just didn't want to risk any midfielder of any sort of importance. Harry Winks would kind of come into the game. And I think that's, sort of the role Papa Sarr could take. And if you ask me, he clearly is like a talent. Like, the kid is still a teenager. I don't even think he's turned 20 yet. And he looks like somebody that could actually thrive in the Premier League with how tall, how long he is. He looks like he kind of enjoys pressing from what I've seen of him as well. Like, there are moments when he like closed down a player and you just kind of look how long he is. He could just poke it around, either side if they try to take it past him. He just seems like somebody that could be, yeah, he does look like a young Vieira. He does look like a young Yaya Toure, especially again with how tall he is for, his age. I don't know. I think he'd be useful. And I think if you were trying to get somebody to work really hard in like a 3-5-2 that sort of brought maybe that kind of X factor, I kind of think he'd be interesting, because if you played like Basuma, Bentancur, Sarr in like a cup game, I could see like Sarr like thriving in like a team like that. And that's where, if you ask me, like there's an extra midfield spot. It's a spot that's not going to get any minutes. You're not going to get many minutes whatsoever, but maybe he just needs to stick around and like just learn, England, learn English,
acclimatize.
Learn, Conte's team, and climatize. Exactly. That's the word I've been looking for. Climatize. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think he's a good enough player that he actually could also fit into the squad if need be. I think he is a good enough player. He already, to me, looks like a better player than Harry Winks. So I think that already rests my case there.
All four of us are probably a better player than Harry Winks. Bless him.
Okay, so it seems like there are no Harry Winks fans on this panel.
JP, so. Go on, JP.
I'd actually like to see him go and get a loan at like Watford, kind of stay in the area.
If he stayed in England, I'd be okay with that too.
Keep an eye on him, develop him, but go get some minutes. Like, I think he needs, like all young players, but particularly really talented ones,
He'd do well at Brighton. He'd do well at Brighton.
Yeah, get minutes into them and get the minutes early. And if that means Serie A, great. It would be great if we could keep him around until the World Cup. Just so he kind of acclimatizes with the squad if he's going to go overseas. But if we want to loan him out from the start, I'd be looking in England.
No, I'd keep him at the club. I think he's probably not directly engaged. Like, he's been to Korea but he's been largely on loan. So he needs to learn the club culture. We need to put the impression on this guy, because he was bought and then he was loaned out. I actually think he could play the cup games here. Probably not the EPL games, but League Cup and FA Cup. So I think we really need to invest into this kid directly. I'd actually keep him. He's a hell of a talent, but I'd probably, maybe pinch, if we're winning 4-0 in the game, bring him on. I actually think we need to nurture this.
5 subs, Cam, as well. We've got 5 subs now in the Premier League.
And if he's a talent, we're up by 4-0, 85th minute, bring him on. Like, this kid, from what we're saying, is a talent. We're just putting him out to another club. Let's cultivate this kid. Let's develop him if he's going to be the next Toure or the next Vieira. I actually think we need to keep him.
Can we have a chat? We've got a super chat from William Kelly. Is he one of the regulars in Irish, Jack?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Thank you very much, William. Sarr will be our Patrick Vieira, but got to give him time to bed him properly. Absolutely. And I think as much as anything, give him time under Conte. He will improve him massively. So again, thanks for the super chat.
Let him hang out, William. Let him hang out, like a Hotspur way. Let him have a few nights at the hotel. I just feel like you said, Cameron, he just needs to acclimatize. That's all it is. I would hate to see him. Like, I feel like Bryan Gil got the time to sort of acclimatize, and then we sent him out on loan. Whereas Papa Sarr, it's different. Like, he's only worn the Spurs shirt for like 3 weeks, really. I just think he just needs to stick around. And even if he doesn't play 700 minutes, like, I just feel like it doesn't matter. He's 19 years old. Hill's
a talent as well, but yeah, he's an interesting situation. But Sarr looks like, from what I've seen, I haven't seen too much of him, but why do we just keep on loaning? Let's get some direct dividends here. Let him score a couple of goals and really get settled into our club. If he's got talent, let's see it. Let's cultivate it. Like, we're not just playing EPL here. We're playing league. Cup, we're playing FA Cup, we're playing Champions League. There's a shitload of games. Pardon the French.
This is a good comment. I was trying to Google if Yaya Toure is still with the coaching staff, but JG thinks he is still with them. So that's quite a good move for him. Again, also the comment about him possibly going to Palace. Maybe we can say buy Winks and we'll let you have Sarr on loan. That's another option.
Take Sarr on loan and we'll give you Winks, you mean?
No, give us 20 million for Winks and you can have Sarr on loan for half season. Give us the money. Chris agrees with you. Well done, Cam. You got someone agreeing with you.
For once.
Kieran forgot the Yaya was with us. The legend that is Robbie Keane saying, hi, Jack. The Robbie Keane.
Good to see my main
Hi,
man, Robbie.
Needs to do a cartwheel.
And Kieran saying, must be a bit behind. Zaniolo seems a very good player. Always gone off to look while we've been playing. Here we go. Adrian, who's a regular viewer, wants to see Sarr and Hill get to game time. Now, I saw a report this week that Paratici spoke to Sampdoria about Hill going there, which suggests to me he's never going to make it at Spurs if we send him on loan to another foreign team. I'd like to see him get some game time in England, not necessarily with Spurs, but on loan in the Premier League or even the Championship, just to get that time here. Does it make sense for him to go to Serie A, Cam?
For Hill, I would have him loaned out in England. We need to. The continent and the EPL are slightly different. I wouldn't want him going to the continent. I would have him play here. I think Hill's a talent as well, but he's quite slight and he's quite small. Conte like these big and strong players by the looks of it. This is a tough one because I think Conte is not at Spurs for the long term. And this guy, I think, Hill's got dividends way beyond Conte's reign at Spurs. This is a tough one because I think...
What if he's like a Chelsea loanee that's just on loan for like 6 years and then he just comes back, and then just hits the ground running? Like he could be like, who's another one I saw the other day? Like, what if he was a Batshuayi that actually came good? Batshuayi that came good. That's been on loan for like 9 years, but has never actually played very much.
Part of the Chelsea farm. No.
The Spurs farm. Stealing their ways.
Conte's the tough one because he's not a long-term manager for us. I'd love him to be, but his career's proven not to be long-term at any club at all. So I like Hill as well, but I don't know if he's coming at the wrong time.
There are certain players that just scream La Liga, and it's hard to know. I think you don't kind of get that feeling until they're like 24, 25. But Hill might be one of those, but we're never going to know if we just keep sending him off into the continent. If we're not loaning him out in England and there doesn't seem to be a market for him in the UK, then sending him to Serie A is not the worst idea, because probably one of the more kind of comparable leagues. He'll have to kind of deal with a little bit more physicality. There'll be expectations on him to improve his output over there. Whereas, La Liga kind of celebrate the stuff that happens around goals as much as the goals. So, I think not Spain is a good move. I would prefer England, but not Spain is a good move.
I would just quickly argue that I agree. I think England is the best move for him, but he did have those links to Marseille. I kind of have made the case that that's actually a good destination for him because if he gets as much game time as Valencia gave him, which was pretty much every game, all the minutes possible, with Marseille, it was a second place finishing team in Liga. It also will have Champions League football next season. If Bryan Gil got Champions League football regularly with Marseille, and if they did well enough to finish in the Europa League, and then get more, kind of European football on top of a team that will be sort of challenging for the top 3, top 4, ideally in Liga. I know Liga isn't our favorite league, but I think that isn't the worst scenario for Bryan Gil, especially if he gets a lot of Champions League football action. And it's under Fonseca, I think, who's a very attacking manager, as we know anyway, which could be good for him. But
is the question
that's just me, like I said, trying to make it harder on myself, make things more complicated.
But is the question, though, that he needs to probably harden up to the physical style of an English league where if you put him to the Championship, he can try and do it on a cold, windy Tuesday night in Stoke? You know,
Absolutely.
is it the kind of like maybe he's got that continental play down flat? Maybe he just needs to do it on that cold Tuesday night in Stoke,
I
windy,
agree.
rainy Tuesday night where it'll harden him up, which is maybe
I
what
agree.
he does need.
It's just that versus a Sampdoria, if he had to go to the continent versus a Sampdoria, I'd rather him go to Marseille, you know, because the manager that they previously had was a very attacking manager. The manager they just hired, Fonseca, is a very attacking manager, and they have Champions League football, which is sort of, as we all know, still better competition than, you know, I think a championship level club. But that's just me, like I said, trying to think a bit outside the box for
Gub's
our
gone,
Messi.
what about the Bundesliga? It's an interesting one there. Didn't think that.
Yeah, they like their young players, don't they? So it could be, you know, a possibility. We will see. I can again see Bryan Gil being later in the window. Another player talked about loan. Apparently, Sunderland, Borough, and QPR are looking at Troy Parrott as a possibility. He obviously did very well in League One last season with MK Dons, especially at the end of the season. Scored a couple of very good goals for Republic of Ireland. Do we think it's the right thing to send him out on loan, JP?
I think that's probably what's going to happen. I'd like to see him stay around the club, but if we're talking about bringing in another attacking player, then he won't get any minutes. So yeah, send him out. I think Borough is probably the right one. Chris Wilder is at Borough now.
Yep.
Am I right there? Yeah, I think that's a good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cam?
I like this. Parrott's an interesting one. I was reading up on the preseason tour that he was one of the first finishers. He was actually, in terms of the preseason regiment there, he was holding up very well. So his condition is quite good. I would like him to go to the championship now, see how he can ply his trade there with regards. I would like to see him scoring goals now because I think over the next season or two, he could then hopefully become a regular fixture of Spurs. But I think he's in the what you call down here the P plate time, L plate when driving, your L's and then your P's. I think once he gets those goals in, I think, I can see him being off the bench for Spurs over the next season or two, but I would like him just to continue in his development phase in Sunderland, Middlesbrough, or whoever it may be, in that rung below. But I'm here. The good reports is he's very well conditioned, which I do like in the modern player. It means he'll be able to take the physical rigors of the fast English style.
JP, do you need to bail on us, mate? You got family things to deal with?
Got a few minutes. Can go a few more minutes.
Okay, cool. Jack, thoughts on Parrott?
I feel like all I can say is probably the best club for him would be a club that's challenging for promotion in the championship. A club that has some sort of kind of weight behind the season. And if they're going to give him solid minutes in a team that's going to be challenging for promotion, kind of like what Skip had with Norwich, I think that would be probably ideal, for Parrott, if you ask me. If he goes to like a mid-table, lower table championship side, it could be good for him if he gets lots of minutes, but I'd like to him play for a team that actually is like doing well in the championship, that's actually being able to like dominate other teams, and something that's somewhat similar to like how Spurs would play, instead of playing for a team that's going to have like 30% possession or something like that. I don't think that's going to help him, at all. Also, maybe a team where he would play as a lone striker.
So what I didn't say is that article was written by Scott Wilson from the Northern Echo, who's also tweeted this in the last 24 hours or so. Oh, that worked. About Spurs and Chelsea are interested in Alan St. Maximin, a guy we discussed 2, 3, 4 weeks ago as a possibility because there was a suggestion of a buyout clause. Given what we've discussed about Depay and players like that, can anyone see this happening? JP?
I think he's probably right on the Depay level of like, if we don't get a Maddison or a Zaniolo, then maybe we look at St. Maximin late in the window. If we just feel like there's, one more spot for a little bit of creativity or in those attacking positions. But I don't see it happening. To be honest, I don't even know if the Chelsea link happens either. I think he ends up staying at Newcastle, but who knows? I may be wrong.
Jack?
Sorry, I missed the question again. Yeah, did it again. Double.
St. Maximin.
St. Maximin.
Yeah.
Depay, I think, would be a better option for us. I think he probably has fewer attitude issues and probably would be a bit better for us, and striker as well as left wing. Yeah, St.
Cam?
Maximin. Yeah, no.
I'm deadline day, but I doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he's got really tree trunk legs. Is the only thing I would say. He's lightning quick. But odd one, scores some good goals, but doesn't score enough goals for me. His effectiveness, obviously, he absolutely ripped Arsenal apart, didn't he? Which was joyous. And we do seem to be signing players who ripped Arsenal apart last season, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
To be fair, there's half the Premier League did that, so there's a lot of
There is
players.
Before JP goes, I'm just going to bring up this one. Brighton's new kit got launched today. Here's old Norman Cook, Fat Boy Slim, at a festival showing off Brighton's new kit. The Crystal Palace fans, we all know there's a hatred between Palace and Brighton, even though they're about 50 miles apart. This is what they did to the Sun poster. Just thought you'd all appreciate that.
He barefoot as well. Ugh.
He is indeed. Maybe, I don't know, maybe DJ's barefoot. He's too expensive for my bar, so I've never had him in the Students' Union.
Just so many wires. So,
Get on Slack.
Just doesn't look like the best place to be barefoot. I'm never against somebody being barefoot, but it seems like the weird place to do it, on a stage.
Okay. I just want to bring up this. This was a tweet yesterday from someone, Macca, I follow on Twitter, talking about John White died. This was yesterday. John White died yesterday in 1964. For those of you who don't know, John White was probably the most important player in the double winning team. He was an astonishing player, obviously way before my time and all these guys' times. He was a very slight Scotsman, but had amazing ability. I read that Cliff Jones said, if you wanted to compare him to a player, probably Glenn Hoddle. But his ability was the way I read it. His ability was a bit more like Dele at his peak. He had this ability to find pockets of space and ghost in and score goals. Unfortunately, he was struck by lightning while playing golf in Enfield in 1964. And Spurs have never won the title since he passed away. So many people say that there's a thing about the ghost of John White, and his son Rob is a season ticket holder at Spurs, and he's on a number of podcasts. Just wanted to bring that up as we haven't done it on this day for a while. And talking of former Spurs players who've passed on, this brings me nicely on to tomorrow's game, which is Spurs against Rangers v Spurs in the Walter Tull Trophy at Ibrox, which our own Gibbo is going to. He's on his way or at Glasgow now. He's sent me a lovely picture of his hotel room, Steve Diver-esque. Now, Walter Tull, for those that don't know, was the first ever black player to play for Spurs. And he joined Spurs in around 1910, I think it was. He only played 10 games, scored 2 goals, and he then went on to play over 100 games for Northampton. He was then the very first black commissioned officer in the British Army in World War One. And while in Scotland, one station in Scotland, he signed to play for Rangers after the war was over. Unfortunately, in 1918, he died in France and never got a chance to play for Rangers. But because of the link between the clubs, this has become the Walter Tull Trophy. So the guy did a lot, such a long time ago. We think about how many racism issues we've had in the last even 5 years, let alone 30 years or 110 years. For what he did coming through that, he must have had so much abuse and just amazing. And just unfortunately, he died so young. I think he was 29. So let's talk about the actual game. Ben Davies is definitely out. Conte is saying he's hopeful of him being back for the Southampton game. Having seen the first 2 games, he almost went stronger than I thought he would. I guess only having 4 games. JP, what do you foresee being the starting lineup tomorrow?
I think we'll go fairly strong again, but I think we'll see Langley. Well, Langley will get minutes with Davies out. I think we might see Sanchez play and possibly some minutes for Roden, though I don't know, is he still out ill? Otherwise,
I imagine he must be out. I haven't seen him in any of the training footage either. I don't know if anyone in the comments has seen him.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen anything of him, but otherwise, Dyer will get some minutes as well. Then I think we will do Perisic and Emerson on the wings. And I think we'll see the debut of Yves Bissouma alongside Rodrigo Bentancur, and a front line of Richarlison, Kane, and Kulusevski.
Any differences to that, Jack?
I could see Basuma and Højbjerg perhaps being together. Maybe because I think Bentancur has looked the best of the midfielders, but I have this strange feeling that Basuma might be played alongside Højbjerg just because Højbjerg might be seen as that calming influence. I agree with Emerson and kind of Perisic as the wingback shouts. I'd be kind of disappointed if we had to see Sessegnon again. Center backs, Sanchez, I think, is going to get as many minutes as he can to flush out whatever mistakes that we know he has in him. Get them all out while you can. Get them all out, in these preseason games until the season actually comes. Longley is a great shout. I feel like Romero will probably start like he always does and then just pop off after 45 minutes. I feel like Richarlison will start yet again. I imagine he might start yet again. That's the only change. So I think Basuma, Højbjerg, Richarlison maybe instead of like Kulusevski.
I see Adrian's putting Forster in. The former Celtic keeper, I'm sure, will get a very warm welcome by the Arbroax crowd, no doubt. Cam,
I'll be kind to him.
Any differences?
It's going to be experimental. Look, it's a preseason game. There's going to be many substitutions. I have a feeling Conte is going to look at the defensive area of our game. I think in that career All-Stars K-League game, whatever you call it, I don't think he would have been too happy with the defending there. And I do have this feeling, whatever the setup may be, he's going to probably have a bit of an eye over everything that's defensive of the middle. Because Rangers are going to be more of a typically British side to play. I'm not saying they're going to replicate the EPL, but I don't think that first game Conte would have been definitely too pleased with how things were defensive of centre. So I'm not going to give you a starting lineup because it's a pre-season game and there's going to be so many subs, but I would think we're going to have a pretty tidy defensive performance this time around.
I mean, it was much improved against Sevilla, wasn't it?
Yeah. But that was a street fight. Bloody K-League was like WWE and then Seville's UFC.
Do you know the good news is that they're playing Arsenal next week. So hopefully they might they'll do exactly the same to Arsenal just before the Premier League starts.
Yeah, good.
You never want a player to get injured, like the person. I never wish ill on any person.
John Terry.
But I would like some Arsenal players to maybe break a leg.
I think there is a player out there. I agree with John. I think there is a player out there that I don't know if I agree with that whole statement. I think there is a player out there that maybe just a twisted thumb, something like that.
When Rory Delap took throw-ins, I can't do it. My thumb's
popped out thumb, something like that. Wouldn't be too bothered by.
Jack Wilshere,
Jack Wilshere's retired now. He was broken by many a Spurs player, wasn't he?
He fell out of the transfer window.
Been seeing how Tavernier gets on. Says that's a good point. Tavernier's just signed a new contract. He's always been very solid for Rangers. I've always wondered how he would do in the Premier League, but it looks like he's staying there for a long time. He's the captain, isn't he? He's very much loved. So that'd be good to see. If Perisic does start, I think he'll only play 45 minutes or maybe an hour. He won't play the whole game. So I think we'll see Cesc and Perisic split that side. Right side, I imagine it'll be Doherty and Emerson splitting the game. I'll be really surprised. It'll be very telling. If Lucas plays a significant part of the game at right wing back, I think that's very telling as to what our starting lineup will be against.
Will Jed Spence not get 30 minutes? Perhaps
Too early.
I think it's too early.
I reckon they'll give him a few minutes.
I think they'll give him 30 minutes.
Purposes. Yeah, I think
they give him 30 minutes.
Really?
I think Doherty needs the minutes, doesn't he? Because he's obviously been injured coming back. Emerson doesn't necessarily need the minutes. It's apart from we all thought he would probably start the opening game. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of Spence for a while, to be honest. Probably the Carabao Cup. Whenever
I don't think he'll see any game time in the Premier League until 7 or 8 games in if he's got it in him. So
I think
unless it's
mentioned this. Yeah, he mentioned this. He's not going to slip right into the side. He needs to be pretty nurtured in there. Or he needs to probably go under the rigours of Conte. But I thought, 15, 20 minutes under Rangers just to actually condition him, I thought would actually be suitable for him to acclimatise to his teammates in an in-situ contestable situation. But
I think, I think Conte he's got a lot of players in those positions that need to get minutes into their legs who are going to play part of the season. So, or play part of the early season. I don't see him getting minutes in this game. It's too early.
Even in pre-season?
Yeah, it's too early.
He's only had a week with the squad, isn't he?
There's not that much tactical work that he can kind of digest as a 21-year-old in a week to make him ready to come into any game and play, particularly when we've got so many options back there that are likely to start game one. This is all about prep for game 1 to 5 at the moment.
I feel like though Gabby Jesus came in and played
different.
I know this is very different, but just to prove the point, maybe you do kind of just come in to play 30 minutes. I think he might come in to play 50.
Arsenal also don't have a player to play that position. We've got 3 players to play that position at the moment, so there's differences, and he's prem proven, and he's come in as the guy at Arsenal, so they have to get him into the squad. We don't have to get Spence into the squad right now.
I think it's going to be a time he's going to have to learn and show Conte the right attitude in training, which he must have known because he's friends with Sessegnon. Sessegnon would have told him exactly what he's like. And I did also hear that Charlie Eccleshare said that this has been going. He was telling players at Forest he was coming to Spurs in January. This has been going on for a while. This is not just, and apart from the fact that the transfer has been going on for a while, this has been a done deal for as far as he and his agent were concerned for months and months.
But then Levy got involved.
Do you know what? I'd rather, because he is only going to be a squad player to begin with, it's a bit irrelevant that we've taken a while to sign him. We've still signed him before the season starts. We've got 2 right wing backs plus Lucas ahead of him. So actually, I'd rather he saves a bit of money so we can spend it on someone else.
Yeah, there's the argument that you would rather Levy negotiate that deal than negotiate the James Maddison signing if there was one.
But then Richarlison did the Richarlison deal by all accounts. It sounds like Parrott is very much concentrating on the European ones because he's got that network, whereas Levy knows the Premier League owners. Although I do understand that Steve Parish quite likes Paratici and is willing to work with him. Whereas I know there's I know some of the owners like Levy but don't like dealing with him. There's a respect for him, which is understandable. Yeah. There you go, yeah. So he was involved the whole time. So we've had a few questions about sales. Vanilla's asking how many players we're selling, and Adrian asked us about an hour ago, how much will we get for Winks, Rodon, Tanganga, Reguilon, Lo Celso, and Ndombele? I'm going to say Ndombele, we're going to be negative equity. We're going to end up paying some of his wages. We're not getting a fee for him. Very unlikely. So Lo Celso, apparently they've bid 15 million today, Villarreal, I think, which obviously we've told them to Foxtrot Oscar. Realistically, what do we accept? 25 million?
I think we're 18 million plus add-ons. I think that's what it's going to be for Lo Celso. It's going to be slightly less than what we want, and then plus add-ons in case he does well at whatever club that. So if he goes to Betis or Villarreal and scores 7 goals and gets 4 assists, Spurs will say, okay, that's an add-on. I think it'll be 16 million, 17 million plus add-ons.
It'll rise, whatever it is, it'll rise to 25 quite comfortably. I think
we'll rise exactly
22 to start with. I think we're not going to take, what do we pay, 40, 45? We're not going to take.
It was a 15 million loan fee, and then 29 million was the transfer fee. Because obviously it was to get, it's about 43 or 44.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's euros or pounds, but that was to get around. Obviously there was a sell-on clause for PSG. So it was sort of to avoid it. But we signed him in the January because it saved us some money. If we waited till the end of that season, we'd have had to pay an extra 4 or 5 million, I think.
Yeah.
I think I think he's one of those ones where we're not going to take more than a 20, 25 mil loss on him because there's enough interest in him. But we're not going to get back the money we paid. No chance.
100%. Yeah.
Winks, 15 to 20. Depends who we sell him to. I think if he's involved in the Leicester deal, we'll probably get that valuation at 15. But if we sell him to Crystal Palace, we'll get 20. Reguilon, 20 to 25.
Here's the interesting one.
And in Ndombele, can you cover a third of his wages on loan?
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to say this, but like, often when I think about when we sell players, it's like, how much would you pay for that player? Like, even as a Spurs fan, how much would you pay for that player? You'd like to think that the other club is sort of thinking the same way. Like, they do their research, they do their due diligence. It's like, when we say 20 million for Harry Winks, I genuinely, like, my mouth drops to the floor, because it's like, anybody that has watched Harry Winks like the last 4 years would not pay 20 million for him. And I don't think any Spurs, but just quickly, I don't think any Spurs fan would pay 20 million for Winks.
And
so why would Crystal Palace pay 20 million for Winks if we as Spurs fans wouldn't even pay 20 million for Winks?
That's the view that you as a Spurs fan take of it in terms of the value.
But we saw Frank Lampard did his due diligence when it came to Winks. So I think they do, like, you know, they look at a guy who's played for only one club his whole career and has barely played for that club his whole career, despite being there his whole time. He hasn't exactly had a ton of games. Like, Højbjerg is going to pass him next season, probably, for like total matches played. So
put this to JP. This is going to be interesting.
I just feel like, if you ask me, he's not going to really go for 20 million. Like, what are you buying for 20 million? Like, I'd rather buy Gio for 20 million.
But think about how much Liverpool are getting for players coming out of their academy. It's not like we would not spend 20 million on Winks because he does not come anywhere close to improving our first or second 11. But if I'm Brighton or Southampton, or this is why I value it lower at Leicester as well, because I don't think the value to the Leicester squad is as great. If I am Southampton, he's probably worth 20 million to me because he improves my best 11.
It's crazy. I think that's so much. I think
what do you call him, JP? A metronome?
20 million in this market as well. Like, is so much.
Harry Winks. I don't want to get into the Harry Winks debate again, but like, Harry Winks is a decent Premier League footballer if you've got the right pieces around him. He can keep the ball moving. If you want Harry Winks to come in and be the main man in your midfield, you're not spending 20 million on that. But for the right club, like 20 million.
I think loan obligation to buy. It's going to be loan obligation to buy for Harry Winks. That's what
possibly
I think it might be.
Possibly.
Yeah, it depends where he goes. Yeah, I mean, again, it might be that we can, if Tielemans leaves Leicester, then it might be that Leicester will take him. He's been linked with them. But a strange one. Adrian's answered his own question. So he's come up with 68 million. I think we might be able to get 15 million for Rodon, especially if we loan him and don't sell him until January, or if he has a decent World Cup. It's a possibility. The Chelsea's going to play in the World Cup as well, so his value might go up. It might be that some of these guys don't go out this summer. Reggie, if Seville get that 55 million, yes, I can see that. And I can see
they would want to represent their clubs prior to the World Cup. They want to make the squads. Like, Lo Celso will.
No, but we might loan them, Cam. We might loan them possibly. I could see that possibly happening. Reguilon, we paid what was due to pay 25 million from him, aren't we? So we might take a bit of a hit on him. But Seville have got this bit. Seville play hardball, don't they? They definitely play hardball.
Quite literally.
We might get.
Really.
Yeah.
It'd be a shame if we took a hit on Reggie. There's kind of no reason to take a hit on Reggie because I feel like he hasn't done poorly enough that you would take a hit, but I guess we will.
We don't need him though, do we? We've made it pretty clear. We've left him behind. So in a way, by doing that, you sort of hamstring yourself. I think.
Do. Yeah, you're right.
Craig's saying we can only loan 4 players abroad. I didn't know that rule. I wasn't aware of that.
There's rules on how many players you can have loaned in. Well, not aware.
You can only have 2 from the Premier League, but you can have as many as you want from elsewhere. Right. Which is why we couldn't loan Dele to Everton. We had to sell him with that weird deal. Which obviously we got 10 million coming when he plays another 6 or 7 games in the Premier League, as well as other add-ons. Did you see his miss?
Yeah, if he plays another 6 or 7 games after that.
Did you guys see it? That was just astonishing. That was worse than Milenko Achimovic's miss back in against Fulham in the day, which was about.
Is that Dele at Everton you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did see that, and I thought, oh, gee.
Have you not seen it, Jack? No, have a look after. Just go on Twitter afterwards. He literally.
This is in his most recent preseason.
The ball was going in the net, and he went to tap it in and managed to
saved
it wide.
It.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
just astonishing.
Yeah,
those are
I've
actually
only
the
seen
best
one
with the
angle.
misses. The
was-
ones where they save it from going in.
Yeah.
Those are the best.
It may not have been going in, but I just saw one angle of it. But someone in the comments will
Love
no
that.
doubt tell me. Look what Fabrizio just posted on Instagram. What are your thoughts? I shall do that. Who else should we chat about? So Rodon, go on, but JP, talk about Rodon while I quickly look on Instagram.
Rodon, I hope we loan him out. Yeah,
10
but I
million,
think he's one of those where we'll be able to get our money back for Rodon. So I think, what do we pay? 12?
14, I think. 14 or
14?
15.
Yeah, I think we'll get our money back for Rodon if we sell him. And unfortunately, I think we will sell him. But he's one of those weird ones in like the Dyer Davies category where he doesn't actually help us from a homegrown perspective when we're in Europe. So, yeah.
I think we get our money back if he plays well. I think it'd be like 10 million plus add-ons, that sort of thing. Like, I just don't know how many people really would pay straight up front, like the same amount of money that we paid for him originally when he.
I think he probably does like a million out loan with a season to buy, like an obligation based on performance, season to buy at 14, 15. So we'll, make our money back and some change for the vending machine. But it'll be loan first with obligation, hitting certain criterias.
I think we if my total I think would be less than 50 million. It's around 50 million. I think
we can do 70.
All the player 70. Wow.
Yeah.
I like this negotiation works. Good work, Daniel Levy. Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted, Instagrammed, Nagelsmann on Harry Kane. He's very expensive. He is strong with the ball, strong body, but at that price, he is really difficult. We will have to see what happens in the future.
Well, there is zero chance that Harry Kane...
Kind of chance.
And if Charlie Kane's still his manager, there's below zero chance as well.
I mean, you'd imagine that if things go okay, and I think we'll get on to Conte in a minute, I think you could see him signing a new contract in a year's time. The difference is he doesn't need the money. So if he got injured and his career was over, it wouldn't be the end of the world financially, whereas 15, 20 years ago it would have been. So he can wait as long as he wants to sign a contract. Yeah, agreed. Well, let's talk about Conte quickly. Obviously, 3 months ago, when that Burnley defeat and the Middlesbrough defeat happened, we were like, is this guy even going to be here come June or September? And then we had debates on this show. Some people said, oh, he'll go. And most of us said, let's see what happens. And clearly, he's so far been backed. Do you think he'll be the Tottenham manager on September the 1st, 2023, Jack?
Yes. I think he'll actually probably be here for, including last year, I think he'll be here for about 5 years is what I think he'll be. 4 or 5 years is what I actually anticipate him. Mostly because I have this theory that with Conte, he would be willing to stay at a club a long time. It's just the conditions have to be right for him in order to stay. Like, he's not someone, he's picky. Like he if he's going to stay at a club a while, has to be the perfect sort of setting and conditions. I think with Spurs, there's so much going for him here that he does see it as a potential long-term choice. He's sort of seen as a cult hero already. He has the chance to be basically Spurs' best ever manager. I know with Bill Nick, obviously he's never going to take Bill Nick's sort of kind of reign, but like probably the best ever since Bill Nick. He maybe Ferguson, I don't know, like it'd be interesting, like with what sort of like reputation he would have among Spurs fans if he did get a trophy next season. Supposedly he's looking at houses here, in fact, as well. On top of that, he was going to stay at Inter Milan. He did actually want to see that as his sort of long-term club. Of course, they couldn't really pay his wages. They couldn't really pay for the players that he wanted to bring in. So he left. And I think with Spurs, if they guarantee him Champions League football, if they guarantee him most of the players that he wants, if they guarantee that he gets his weekly paycheck every week, I feel like he actually might see Spurs as kind of a long-term sort of option. I don't really know why he would want to leave Spurs unless we did something incredibly wrong to him, if that makes sense.
I think
we would have to really wrong him, I think, for him to leave.
Wouldn't be the first manager we've wronged, though.
I think it'd be the first time we hadn't wronged a manager. So yeah, touche.
I think with Conte, he will find wrongs very easily. And that's why he busts with clubs and he leaves. It's not like the narrative seems to be Conte doesn't stay long in a club. He's a short-term manager. It's not that. It's that Conte wants to win and be competitive, and he has a very clear picture of what he needs in order to do that. And if he doesn't believe that he's being supported in his aims to do it, then he'll leave. I think he's realistic that like he has a title to win an aim to win the Premier League. I think he knows that's probably not this year, that he needs a little bit more time with this club to do it. And as long as he keeps getting backed, I think he'll hang around to do it. And as long as he's like being successful, and success doesn't necessarily look like a first place finish this year, it might be second or third, but we've really closed that gap and you can see an opportunity. Backing Conte from here out doesn't look like signing 10 players every summer. We've done the kind of big squad overhaul this summer. It looks like 2 or 3 key players each year, which the structure that we have around the club now and the state that we're in, we're capable of doing. If we keep delivering Champions League football, if we run deep into competitions, if we maybe pick up a cup here or there, we're capable of giving him all of that. And as long as kind of Levy stays out of the way, Paratici knows the pitfalls of how to piss Conte off because he's done it before. Then I think we're in a good spot. I don't see him staying for 5 years, but 3 or 4 is not an improbability.
I would go 2, maybe 3 tops. I do also think, I don't think Conte's wedded to the club. I think, look, he's got the loyalty there to stick with us, but I do think he has ambitions to win in Spain and maybe other leagues alternatively as well, to emulate Ancelotti, Mourinho. He's in that kind of ilk of manager, and I do think that he has those aims to actually win in other leagues. So I do think 2, maybe 3 seasons tops. And I think that's why a lot of players that we've wanted have probably been reticent to join Spurs, because they don't see Conte there as long-term, if that makes sense, because they want to see if Conte's long-term. And Conte's historically not long-term, but I'm open to what you guys are saying. I just don't know if history suggests that otherwise.
Quickly, do you think there's like been a bit of a switch in terms of like the big managers of the world, like the top notch managers of the world? They're all gravitating towards the Premier League. You know, they're not really, spread apart as much as they used to be. Now they seem to all sort of want a Premier League club. And there's kind of this feeling that maybe there might be 1 or 2 world-class managers outside, the Premier League available to you, but they all seem to be sort of being drawn in towards the Premier League. Maybe Conte might be one of them.
Yeah, but Conte might like maybe not a Barca, but a Real Madrid in his career to give it a shot.
Sure.
So yeah, I do think he's got aims beyond the EPL as well, because he's got to look after his own brand as well. He's a business, and the amount of coaches and entourage he has in supporting coaches, I think, goes beyond just the EPL. With all due respect,
and his trophy cabinet gets bigger if he does leave the Premier League. It's a lot harder to win trophies in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Do you think his mindset's been slightly different by the fact that when he came in, he made a lot of noise about the fact that Spurs do things differently from these clubs? Or do you think he just thought, I can change this club by the fact that we have gone out and signed players this summer that in previous years we wouldn't have done this sort of thing, Jack?
I mean, this is kind of where my Inter theory comes from. Is so like when he took over Inter, like Inter were in a horrible, horrible situation. He like turned them around quickly. I think they were a team that hadn't been in like Champions League and whatever it had been, like 4 or 5 years, 6 years, Inter Milan, and then he had brought them back into it. It's not like when he was going into that Inter Milan job that he was sort of expecting things to be dandy and things to be, perfect for him. He seems to be okay with taking on a club that doesn't have a lot going for it, or might have some issues, behind or under the hood, maybe is how you would say it. I think with Inter Milan, that was the case. They had kind of dodgy owners. They seem to have like money here and now, but not money for later. But he took the job and he did as best as he could with them. So like I'm trying to say is he took a gamble with Spurs. He took a project with Spurs. If Spurs do everything in their power to make him happy, I feel like he'll continue along with that project, continue along with it. I know he doesn't see it as a project because he's trying to achieve as quickly or as much as quickly as possible. But if Spurs kind of meet him with that sort of enthusiasm, despite coming from a really bad position originally, I think he'll stick with us. Like he did it with Inter Milan. I could see him doing it with Spurs because Inter Milan were not an enticing project before he took them.
Okay. I'm going to wrap up in a second. A couple of things I want to do. Please, we're 332 people still watching us. We've only got 165 likes, so pretty much half. Please, can you just click the like button for us? Really helps us out. Doesn't cost you anything. Before we go, just going to ask you all. I know it's pre-season, Cam. You didn't want to predict the team. Give us a score prediction for tomorrow, Cam.
I'm going to go 4-1.
I'm just going to add, they did beat West Ham 3-1 and scored some very good goals the other night.
Who, Rangers?
Rangers, yeah.
4-2.
It was a stronger
Full
West Ham
Ibrox
team.
as well. Full Ibrox as well, stadium.
Jack?
3-1. I think it'll be the opposite of the West Ham score. We'll win 3-1.
JP?
3-2.
That's a good one.
Spurs?
3-2 Spurs, yeah.
They've lost some defenders. They've sold a couple of I think one over the last 24 hours. So I actually think if Richarlison and Kane get on a tear, I like Rangers. I prefer them over Celtic, but I can see Spurs actually causing a mess up there.
Hotspur's reckons 42-3, so we're playing rugby, I think.
That sounds like the K-League game, basketball.
They beat Wet Spam 3-1, so I guess if you flip it, that math works out. Yeah.
We got a 2-2 from Easton. I think that's okay. Well, thanks guys for joining me this evening. I know JP's got to run off. He's got kids doing things. I've got a 13-year-old having a sleepover, so they're probably causing carnage in the living room. I need to go and see. Cray's gone for 3-2. Thanks very much, JP, for joining us.
Thank you very much, all. It's been a wonderful chat as always, and thanks to everyone in the comments.
Yeah, indeed. Cameron, thanks for coming on again.
No, it's been brilliant today. Really good chat. Cheers.
And Jack, thanks for putting your swanky lunch off until tomorrow so you could join us today.
Absolutely. Swanky lunch can always be postponed. Appreciate you guys having me again.
Yeah, and Caller will be back on Monday with a team yet to be defined because I haven't sorted that out for him yet. But next week, we do have the Sussex Hotspur and the Irish Hotspur, David Harris, both on. So that will be another good one. And Shan will be back on Wednesday with Gibbo and James and we've got a fourth guest as well for Wednesday. So it's going to be a good week. And watch out we might be doing some other little videos. Hopefully Gibbo might get some Ibrox content tomorrow as well. So on that note, I'm going to say, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you
Come on, you
Spurs.
Spurs.